Part 101. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1005. It is at the forefront of Kitasumi Prefecture's Red Snow Mountain Range, on top of the highest snow peak. The sharp snow peaks are like the tips of winter bamboo shoots protruding from the snow, reaching straight into the sky, standing among the flying snowflakes in the sky. Looking from a distance, you can vaguely see a huge white snow eagle sitting on the top of the snow peak. Its huge wings completely cover most of the top of the snow peak. From a distance, it looks like a giant eagle crawling on the top of the snow peak. Just like resting quietly. On the side of the snow peak, a white triangular flying saucer flickered slowly, emerging in the wind and snow. Inside the triangular flying saucer, in front of the huge front glass window, stood several impressive young men and women. The leader was a young girl with a pretty and lovely face. She wore a red waist skirt and red crystal earrings hanging from her ears. "Garen, do you see? This is the largest landmark building of our Chixu sect, Chixu Peak, which is also the highest peak in the entire mountain range," she explained with a smile. "Senior sister, isn't that the tower that is the iconic building?" Garen stood next to her, dressed in white, with the newly acquired three-heart pall drawn on his shoulders, and behind him was a formal white cloak that long trailed the floor. Coupled with his tall and strong stature, he gives people a mighty and majestic aura. "Do you know Fi'un Tower?" Third senior sister shook her head. "You will know later, that tower, ugh." The flying saucer slowly approached the snowy peak, and then, amidst the countless winds and snow, as well as the frightened cries of everyone in the flying saucer, it was swallowed up by a huge snow eagle. Ha 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 ha. In the flying saucer, the third senior sister, Eva, held her belly and laughed regardless of her appearance, looking at the other people beside her who looked shocked. "Senior sister, why don't you tell me in advance?" Garen said helplessly. He still maintained his original appearance and didn't move much. However, Bernstadt and Hiko, who came with him, both looked pale. "Why aren't you afraid?" "It's boring." Senior sister Eva looked at Garen strangely. "I think with senior sister here, even if we encounter any danger, we juniors won't be able to go up and fight, right?" Garen said with a frank shrug. "Although we all know the truth, everyone will have an instinctive reaction when being swallowed in that moment, right?" Eva touched her chin, feeling that Galleon was more and more pleasing to the eye. The window in front of the flying saucer was filled with light, as if it had entered a rainbow-like tunnel, constantly moving forward rapidly in the tunnel. This tunnel is a dimensional passage that leads to a private planet of our Chixu section that is the real base camp of our Chixu sect. It is also where our headquarters is. As for the strongholds in the Chixu Mountains, they are only on the surface. It's for outsiders to see, Eva explained. Private planet. Bernstadt couldn't close his mouth. "Hey, dear, if I hadn't followed Brother Garen, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to the real Chixu headquarters in this life." Zilke was also sitting on the electronic wheelchair next to him. He couldn't close his mouth for a long time. He was also shocked. After working on it for a long time, they realized that the headquarters they had always thought was fake at all, and the real headquarters was on another planet. Garen only had a slight flash of surprise, and then returned to normal. This makes sense. It seems that the three major factions each have their own private planet as their base camp. "Well, that's it," Eva answered affirmatively. "Not only us, but many medium-sized and large-scale sects are like this, especially the big sections. They have many branches, and each branch will have one or two private planets. The disciples divide the territory and mine the source of the mineral deposits. You will see it later." As soon as he finished speaking, the colorful tunnel in front finally turned into white light. After slightly adapting to the bright light, what appeared in front of everyone was a blue sky and white clouds. Blossoming clouds seemed to have solidified as they passed by and retreated from the side of the flying saucer. There were some fusiform white airships flying side by side all around. There were claw-like things hanging underneath these airships, which looked a little weird. Those are mining ships, with slaves on top. Some have triangular crystals instead of claws on the bottom. Those are slave ships. There is the largest slave market here. With just one crystal, you can buy all kinds of ordinary slaves. Human slaves, and slaves with strength and advanced knowledge generally start at 10 crystals, with no upper limit. The boss behind the slave chamber of commerce is now Carthage. He seems to be about to break through to the inheritance level. You can go to the Star Pi headquarters to meet him if you have time. He still takes good care of the potential juniors. Otherwise, he would not be the boss of my star brand. Eva admired Carthage very much. This made Garen slightly curious about it. The flying saucer accelerated, leaving these flying ships behind in an instant, and dived downwards. After passing through the thick clouds and separating the clouds, the front suddenly became clear, with mountains and rivers, woods and grasslands, and golden deserts in the distance. In the middle of each different terrain, there is only a small silver-white building as the core. Within a small area of tens of thousands of square kilometers, there are many different characteristic terrains. This is the headquarters. Eva's face became slightly formal at this time. What's the terrain like here? Siake asked in confusion. That was caused by the influence fields of the elders and the 3 major disciples, Eva said in a surprising tone. Influence field, Bernstadt exclaimed, such a large piece must be at least several thousand square kilometers. It's actually. Each piece represents a powerful being who has reached the 6th level of the inheritance level. This is us, the mechanic. After we reach the inheritance level, unlike the pilots, we will manage our station into a solid wall city area. Anyone who dares to opponents who invade their own territory will be affected by the powerful force field at all times. Eva chuckled. So don't wander around randomly, otherwise no one can save you if something happens. It's so dangerous here. Bernstadt was speechless for a while and sighed. The weak have only one fate here, Eva said sternly, that is to be a slave. So if you are not with Garen, never come here alone in the future. I understand. Thank you, third senior sister, for reminding me. The 2 quickly thanked them for the reminder. Garen also frowned slightly. The flying saucer flashed quickly, jumped again, and when it reappeared, there was already a field of snow in front of it. The flying saucer slowly stopped in the snow. Directly in front of it was a tall and majestic white church-like building not far away. The entire building stood on the snowy hills, covered with thick ice, as if carved. Come out of the ice sculpture castle. There are 3 white light spots slowly rotating on the top of the building, as if they have been rotating for many years and remain unchanged forever. As soon as it landed, an ancient and calm voice sounded from inside the flying saucer. Welcome to the Cliff Library. Only 3-hearted disciples are allowed to enter here. Each person is allowed to bring 2 people in. Garen looked at the huge building from a distance. Judging from its size, it was at least as big as a mountain peak. It was only because of the distance that he could see the whole thing clearly. Suddenly, a flying saucer flew out of the library, spinning and passing very close to the right side, bringing up large snowflakes and scattering them on Eva's flying saucer. Cordo, you're going to die. Eva suddenly raised her eyebrows and shouted when she saw that the clean appearance of her flying saucer was suddenly stained with snowflakes. Hey, senior sister, I am here to train your adaptability. A young boy's voice came into the flying saucer, smiling and looking a little playful. Isn't it just that I lost to you last time? Eva said unconvinced. Wait until the next split star competition, then we will fight again. The flying saucer had completely moved away and was obviously no longer heard. Eva was unhappy that she had lost face in front of her junior brother. Okay, you go to the library to check out the information here and get your own special flying saucer. There are restricted areas that are not allowed to go. As long as you don't change the settings randomly, you don't have to worry about going to places you shouldn't go. You can just wander around by yourself when the time comes. Everything here relies on jumping, flying by light is useless. Remember. I'm leaving first. Eva hummed twice and waved her hand. Suddenly, Garen and the others felt their bodies light up, and they were immediately transferred out of the flying saucer and onto the ice sculpture steps in front of the big library. Eva's voice was faintly heard in the wind and snow behind her. Cordo, don't even think about running away. The voice gradually faded away, and it was obvious that Eva had made up her mind to take revenge. This is a beam projection system. It's really powerful. Such a system outside would cost at least tens of thousands of crystals, Bernstad said with emotion. Let's go, don't sigh. Garen was the first to walk forward, heading directly towards the library. Hiko and Bernstad quickly followed. If they hadn't followed Garen, they probably wouldn't have been able to come into contact with things at this level in their lives, especially in a place where this level was far higher than themselves. Be careful not to follow closely, no one can tell what danger you may encounter. The three of them walked forward along the steps. They walked for more than 10 minutes before walking up the thousands of tall steps. The edges of these steps were covered with thick ice. It was easy to slip if you were not careful. And the further you go up, the cooler the temperature becomes. Both Bernstad and Hiko were trembling. Damn it! Even my 4th level red snow skill can't withstand this temperature. Boss, I'm dying, Bernstad quickly called for help. Garen rolled his eyes at him silently, while Hilk was also shivering from the cold. She was also a 4th level Chixyugong, but she still gritted her teeth and persisted. The same two people, the same skills and the same environment, the difference in perseverance is completely incomparable. However, considering that Bernstad has worked hard for him in the past few years, he has been busy, allowing him to practice in an environment where he almost doesn't have to pay attention to external affairs. With a wave of his hand, Garen released his own unique cold energy radiation, wrapping the two of them in it, using the power of cold energy radiation to absorb and divide the surrounding low temperature. Standing in front of the tall library wall. There was no gate, just a large swirling circular sign with an eye-like pattern inside. Hiss. A pale woman wearing a white robe suddenly appeared in front of the 3 gallons, startling Bernstad and the others. The woman ignored the two of them and her eyes fell directly on Garen. Press your hand on the whirlpool and sense where you want to go. All followers and slaves can only go to the bottom floor to read ordinary books and wait. You are a newcomer and you need to pay homage to the 32 ancestors of the sect first. Understood. Senior sister also introduced this before Garen came. Visiting the ancestor is equivalent to visiting the ancestor in the world of secret martial arts. It is a very solemn ceremony, so he put on formal clothes and came. He pulled the white silk cloak behind him and let it drag on the ground. He adjusted the sharp shoulder armor on his right shoulder, buttoned it, and smoothed out the wrinkles in his clothes. Under the gaze of the pale woman, Garen gently pressed his hand on the whirlpool. Hiss. After a soft sound, Garen's eyes were dazzled. In an instant, he was standing at the door of a huge dark hall. The front door was open. Inside, huge bronze statues hundreds of meters high stood side by side. Each of their statues stood side by side. It is a majestic and tyrannical existence covered with different force fields. The statue seemed to be a living person. 32 lines of sight were projected down, as if the ancestor was really staring at the new disciple. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1006. The hall was empty and deserted, without any human sound. The statues sit high and form a circle, overlooking the galleons at the entrance gate. Garen felt like his whole body was being cut by knives, and terrifying sights fell on him like searchlights. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Call. Snapped. The first step was a heavy step. It made a crisp sound when it landed on the smooth ground. He walked into the hall step by step, his broad white cloak rising slightly as he moved forward, like a cloak. At this moment, the crystal shoulder armor suddenly lit up with a faint gleaming white light, which seemed to mark his Sangzan's identity. Walking to the central hall, Garen knelt down on one knee. His whole body seemed to be carrying 1,000 pounds of weight, and he knelt on the ground with a bang, and even the ground made an overwhelming sound. Force fields of different natures were entangled and mixed together, covering Garen's body fiercely, making him somewhat breathless. He already felt that the main body of this force had reduced its strength as much as possible, but he still felt overwhelmed by such a terrifying force field. The whole body's muscles, bones, and blood were trembling rapidly under the constant high pressure, and the heart was beating violently, pushing the blood crazily again and again to resist the strong pressure from the outside world. Garen only felt that the cells all over his body were trembling crazily, and his skin was bursting with tearing pain, making him feel as if his skin was being peeled off layer by layer. In the hall, traces of white cold air began to slowly condense under the influence of different force fields, forming a faint white whirlwind that swirled around Galleon. Outside the hall, a frail old woman appeared at the door. She was holding a cane and wearing a white robe and looked at Garen quietly in the hall. "How long do you think he can last?" "The normal time is 10 minutes. But his willpower seems to be quite strong, and he should be able to reach 20 minutes." The pale woman who led the way silently appeared behind the old woman and said, "Every time the ancestor visits is a baptism, a reborn oppression exercise. The longer you can endure it, the more you can improve your Chixyugong and lay a solid foundation for the next promotion. The statue of the ancestor has accumulated a lot of thousands of years of cold air radiation. As long as you have enough willpower and physical endurance, you can improve to the ultimate skill that you can theoretically improve," the old woman said lightly. "Iwa chose him from the two-hearted disciples she has taught over the years. It's not unreasonable. 20 minutes is a little too short. It's quite a lot, enough for him to advance to the 9th level of Red Snow skill," the pale woman whispered. "Back then, you and I also improved our skills by 1 level here and entered the Half Moon level. However, it is easier to improve at lower levels. I guess he can reach level 5, which is the 10th level, the old woman said calmly. Carthage has only been promoted to the 3rd level, and he is already a top genius that has not been seen in hundreds of years." The pale woman looked at her with some disbelief. "Just watch." Boom. In the hall, with Garen as the center, the ground cracked open with countless cracks like spider webs. A large amount of cold air surrounded him, almost forming a white column of cold air, spinning and flying at high speed. Countless cold air poured into Garen's body crazily, fueling the chi snow technique in the cold region in his body like a rocket. These chills were actually the purest chi snow technique without personal will, but they seemed very violent and manic and needed to be endured. It was very difficult and painful to survive. Countless snowflakes were flying like blades cutting on Garen's body. These snowflakes seemed tangible, but they were simply illusory and condensed things. They did no harm to Garen's clothes at all, but when they fell on him through the clothes, they were like countless knives. Like being cut into pieces by 1,000 cuts. "My skills are improving rapidly," Garen has already felt something abnormal. His Red Snow skill had just broken through to the 8th level, which is the level of a 4th level energy master, but now it is under the support of this chill. Quickly stabilized, and in just 10 minutes, it had been completely consolidated, and began to rush towards the next level, the 9th floor. The Red Snow technique of the Cold Realm has the same origin as the cold outside. Although the quality is not as good as the Peacock technique at this time, its huge quantity forces all the blue threads of the Peacock technique to hide, daring not to hide. At this time, Garen's whole body was being instilled with countless chills from the Red Snow technique. He felt like his body was absorbing a large amount of chill like a sponge, and at the same time he was suffering from the pain of being cut into pieces by 1,000 cuts. But across several worlds, Garen has experienced the pain of digging out his own heart to transform his body, the pain of being gradually rotted in the Mother River for several months, and various cruel battles, killings, and amputated limbs. In comparison to the pain, such a little pain could not shake his will at all. The only thing he needs to consider is how long his body can support it. A huge amount of coldness poured into the body crazily. The skill that originally needed to be accumulated in years was now being continuously improved under the infusion of countless coldness. In just a few minutes, several years of hard work were saved. The chill was getting more and more violent, and Garin felt that his body was faintly unable to hold up, as if a balloon filled with air had inflated to its limit and was about to explode. Finally, he let go of the cold absorption and turned to confrontation, with a hint of retreat in his heart. In an instant, the cold wind and snow in the sky disappeared. The moment he thought of retreating, all the coldness disappeared instantly, as if everything that had just appeared was just an illusion. With a chirping sound, Garin opened his mouth and spit out a stream of red clouds, which circled around him before returning to his mouth and disappearing. That was a newly condensed mark of the red snow technique, which also meant that he had broken through 2 levels of the red snow technique in a row and reached the level of a 5th level energy weapon master. Only by breaking through the first level can a new mark of Chixyagong be condensed. In the blink of an eye, Garin had disappeared into the hall and reappeared in the huge dark corridor outside the hall door. He was still kneeling on one knee, and now a force field slowly lifted him up. It was the old woman's senior sister Renee standing next to him, and the pale woman who had led the way before. Breaking through 2 levels of red snow kung fu saves more than 10 years of accumulated hard work. Not bad, not bad. We have already reached the level of Chief Ron Bell, the Great Elder, and Chief Kargas of the Third Elder. We know about the Ghost Mothership. Your will and physique are your strengths, so you can get such great benefits from here. Otherwise the third senior sister Eva would not have done such a favor to let you enter the third heart in advance. Renee looked at Garin with a smile. I will keep this sentiment in mind for third senior sister, Jialong said seriously. This visit to the ancestor saved him more than 10 years of hard work. It can be said that it helped him a lot. He had never heard of the preciousness of such a place where one could directly instill one's skills. He could imagine that the price paid by third senior sister Eva must have been extraordinary. The reason why third senior sister did this is for the future of our lineage, the pale woman explained. Teacher is old and frail. Although he is a non-relegated disciple, he has been only a inheritance level disciple for so many years, but he has never been able to be replaced. Fortunately, there is Carthage now, maybe with it won't be long before we call him senior brother. Once he breaks through the inheritance level and his combat power is greatly increased, with his talent he can jump up to level 7 and fight without falling. At that time, he may be qualified to share the pressure for the teacher. The old woman Renee answered. But unfortunately, senior sister Eva has always disliked Carthage's arrogance, and the two of them have always been hard to deal with. She has been frantically digging for new talents over the years, trying to find someone who can compete with Carthage. The seedlings will prevent Carthage from having a difficult time in the future when it stands in a high position. Because the teacher loves her, he asked his old friend to pay attention to the disciples of the big sect in Central City. So among the people she discovered, I am considered a better one. Garin felt the new power of reaching the 5th level. His body was covered with layers of red snow skills, as complete and huge as a tide. Compared with his body, Shishi's consciousness has strengthened by a whole level. After raising his consciousness by 1 level, his biochemical beasts will definitely increase in strength, especially the wolf pack, which was originally the apex of the 3rd level, and should now be able to reach the 4th level. This increase in the energy weapon master is also related. You are her only hope. Not just the better one. She seems to have found a life-saving straw now and won't let go. The pale woman shook her head and said helplessly. To be honest, although Carthage is a bit arrogant, he is very kind to his own people, especially to senior sister Eva. Unfortunately, she just doesn't appreciate it. Well, the library has all the information and rules explained here. You can also go to the third floor to take a look at the trophy books collected here. There are many other sex techniques for reference, although they are not as powerful as my Chixia Kung Fu. But some of them are useful for reference, the old woman whispered. Garen bowed his head and thanked him. But compared to these, what I want to do most now is to stabilize my level and adapt to my current strength. I wonder if Senior Sister has such facilities and environment here. Before he came, he fused with the Winter Night Wolf pack given to him by the third Senior Sister. This energy mark cultivated a basic level 4 wolf, which was also a black wolf, but smaller and stronger. Now his level has reached level 5. Level has been able to generate force field defense for itself. It can be said that the combat effectiveness has undergone a qualitative leap. And the greater the number of wolves on winter nights, the stronger the overall quality that can be improved. Do you want to try the winter night wolves you just got? A glimmer of light flashed in the old woman's eyes. Yes, Garen nodded. Okay, I'll accompany you, the old woman laughed strangely. She was also a little curious about what level Garen could reach now. It can be said that the winter night wolves, coupled with Garen's current level and the increase in his energy weapon master's biochemical pool, his wolf pack quality must have reached the resonance stage. As for the level of the resonance stage, it is unclear. The strength gap between each level in the resonance stage is also very large, but any increase has certain limitations and limits, and it is impossible to grow indefinitely. It's just the right time to try Galleon's strength. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1007. In an empty room as white as jade. Renee stood quietly in the distance, leaning on a cane, on the ground of Galleon, with a calm and serene face. She looked pure and clear in her newly changed white training uniform, as if she was a harmless ordinary old man. On the other side of the room, Garen raised his hand, and 5 winter night wolves appeared in front of him. As soon as Garen used the space ring, he suddenly remembered that this thing was still the personal belongings of Princess Annie, and he had only borrowed it from her, but now he was temporarily recruited by the third senior sister to be called a disciple of the 3 hearts, and he could only return it after returning. Gave it to her. Only 5, Renee shook her head. This is not enough to fill the gap between the teeth. She suddenly grinned, and the sharp white teeth in the entire mouth were exposed, looking like a terrifying beast that penetrated people. Let's try it first and then talk about it. Garen didn't say anything. Every wolf in the winter night pack was just as he imagined. It had reached the limit of level 5, and there was a faint transparent light curtain surrounding it, which was what level 5 represented. Force field defense. For opponents below level 5, if they want to kill these giant wolves, they must first break these force field protections. Then, you have to be careful. Renee chuckled, tapping the crutch in her hand lightly on the ground. Boom. A terrifying huge shock suddenly centered on her and spread in all directions. War stampede. Renee roared, with her as the center. Click. Countless cracks exploded open, like countless black snakes spreading madly towards Galen, rushing up to Galen's feet. Chi! A grey stone pillar erupted from the crack, and the sharp top of the stone pillar was extremely sharp, stabbing Garen's crotch hard. Garen's face was startled. This series of changes happened so fast that even he couldn't react in time. In almost the blink of an eye, this attack was already in front of him. Without any time to think, he pushed his body back hard to avoid the impalement of the stone pillar. 5 winter night wolves howled and pounced on Renee, directly surrounding her from 3 directions. Stupid! I, the energy master of Naga planet, always rely on myself, not the energy weapon, Renee snorted coldly, and her body flashed. She didn't look very fast, but she could avoid the wolves just right. The attack of the wolf pack can even be directed towards one of its own members with a little guidance. While dodging, Renee actually rushed towards Garen at a sprint speed. The whole person is like a sharp knife unsheathed. At this time, Garen had just avoided the cracks in the ground and rushed out of the ground thorn. He had just stabilized his body and regained his posture when he saw Renee almost rushing in front of him. Turn. The bottom of the black crutch was like a steel thorn, pointing hard at his eyes. Looking at the speed and power, he seemed to be going forward to death if he couldn't stop it. Wan Zhen is shattered. At this time, Garen couldn't hide it at all, and instinctively used his Wan Zhen Gong, his fastest changing and most adaptable technique. The power of destruction instantly twisted the whole body, making the body awkwardly move to the left. At the same time, Garen's right arm was raised horizontally, and it was whipped towards Renee's neck like a whip. At the same time, a stern look flashed in his eyes, knowing that he would definitely not be Renee's opponent, and any attempt to hold back would be foolish, so he simply used the third change of Wan Zhen Gong to the extreme. In addition to whipping his right arm like a whip, he raised two fingers of his left hand together and stabbed the vital part of Renee's waist. This move has some effect, Renee could comment calmly even while moving at high speed. Shuijing level fighting skills are considered a peerless master among ordinary people, but to me, Naga planet, they are nothing. A low whistle suddenly came from her mouth. Let you look at the higher level above the water mirror. The silver mirror. Her crutch suddenly disappeared and made a sudden stroke from bottom to top in front of her. Clang. An extremely weird and strange feeling suddenly poured into Garen's heart. He felt that all his offensive seemed to be in vain at the same time. It seemed that there was a huge invisible force that naturally pulled his offensive instinct aside. Under such circumstances, his well-honed fighting instincts told him that he had indeed hit the target, but his five senses clearly saw that he had missed the target. Like a shadow, Renee rushed over from the right, her crutch hanging gently at Garen's throat. From extremely fast to extremely quiet in an instant. The tip of the crutch was less than half a centimeter away from the vital point of Garen's throat. There seemed to be a huge and extremely heavy pressure condensed on it. It was obviously just hovering at his throat, but Garen had an instinctive feeling that once he was hit, his whole body might fall apart in an instant. I didn't even have time to use the third transformation of Wan Zhen Gong. Garen's heart sank to the bottom for the first time. This was a pure battle of fighting skills. Neither of them used their Qixia Kung Fu or other special abilities. It was just a pure battle of fighting realms. Incredibly, he lost. And he lost without any suspense, without a trace of luck. He could feel that the instinctive pull just now was a higher skill, a martial arts skill, rather than any so-called innate ability. The sharp tip of the cane was only a little away from his vitals. Cold sweat slowly seeped out from Garen's forehead. He stared intently at the tip of his throat, not daring to move. It's so disappointing. Really, there was an inexplicable color in Renee's eyes. How can you be so weak and meet the expectations of senior sister? Instead of going out and being beaten to death, it's better to be killed by me here. Before he finished speaking, the crutch suddenly pointed towards Garen. The sharp tip of the cane stabbed into Garen's throat with a hint of murderous intent. Blood splattered. Chi. The tip of the cane penetrated directly from the back of Garen's neck, dripping with bright red blood. Garen covered his throat with a look of disbelief on his face. He staggered back a few steps, only to find that neither his strong physique nor his own potential could stop the gushing. Profuse blood loss. Isn't this still under testing? How could this happen? How could this happen? What he just wanted to hide from was that when his life was in danger, he used 5 trembling changes in a row, but Renee could easily see through them all. The final result was that he was still stabbed through the throat with a crutch, without the ability to resist. Crushing, this was a crushing with almost no resistance. Renee's strength had reached the peak of fighting. Garen's martial arts realm, which he had always been proud of, was suppressed face to face for the first time. This was not something that allowed him to. What is unbelievable, and the most incomprehensible thing is that Renee would actually kill her during a sparring match. Diddy. His vision gradually dimmed, and Garen began to slowly lose his vision due to massive blood loss, but suddenly there was a short and rhythmic sound in his ears. Snapped. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his forehead, as if there was something cold touching the center of his eyebrows, a cold pain. "Wake up," someone shouted in his ear. Garen suddenly felt his eyes blur, and his mind suddenly came to his senses. He was standing in the white space before. Opposite him, Renee was still standing far away, looking at him with an indifferent expression. There was no crack between the two of them, there were no cracks on the ground, and his throat was still fine, with no blood or any wounds. Garen subconsciously touched his throat, which was intact. "What state is this?" His voice was a little hoarse. What surprised him was that his throat was actually injured. It was not a false illusion, but a real pain, as if something had penetrated it. It was just compared to the scene he just saw. The curtain is much weaker. In martial arts fighting, there is a supreme palace of skills. Being able to call it the realm of mirrors is enough to become a top master, establish a sect, and achieve great things, Renee explained calmly while leaning on crutches. And your current state is the water mirror level. Any attack will be naturally reflected in your instinct, and then the best response will be automatically generated at the fastest speed of conditioned reflex. This is the water mirror, not afraid of sneak attacks, not afraid illusion, facing reality with reality, is one of the martial mirrors of truth. It is also a higher level than the general master level realm of unity. How are the realms of Gi divided? Garen asked hoarsely in a low voice. Reunification means, as the name suggests, all methods are unified. When it reaches a certain height, everything seems to be able to find certain principles and laws. And applying it to martial arts means being able to target one's own goals and combine whatever one can use. The skills are integrated together to form the realm of one's own martial arts skills. This is the level of the forge and the basis of the Grand Master level. Only after reaching this level can one be qualified to enter the mirror level. Renee explained with a smile. At your age, being able to enter the mirror level is simply one of a kind. A genius among geniuses, he is even more terrifying than Carthage. If it weren't for his great talent, how could you? If you can never catch up with him in your lifetime, maybe you can really compete. Garen was still recalling the feeling of his throat being pierced just now. The red feeling didn't seem like an illusion. Then, senior sister, what is the realm of the mirror like? Renee smiled and waved, and the two of them immediately left the white space and reappeared in the previous corridor. The front and back were empty, except for a woman in white who was still waiting there. In the realm of the mirror, there is the water mirror, which is your current level. You have tempered your instincts to the highest level. Then there is the silver mirror. The battle between top masters, especially the masters of martial arts, is very powerful. Do you believe it? In fact, I didn't do anything just now, I just stood here and released my realm for you to perceive. If it were a moment later, maybe you would really die from the fatal injury of piercing the throat. Renee explained gently. Nothing, Garen was shocked. Is everything just my imagination? Or was my instinct induced to go wrong? This is a battle of chi machines. Low-level warriors are not qualified to experience this kind of feeling. But now you have chi machine, but you have not used its skills. As a result, your skills are always compromised by energy machines and various high-level machines. Technological suppression. It is only useful in close combat. It is not very useful in complex situations. Right, Renee smiled and said very understandingly. That's true. Garen nodded seriously. Since he came to this world, except for close combat, it is true that according to what the senior sister said, the martial arts realm is not suitable for him. It is powerless in the face of extremely powerful high-tech weapons. That's the reason Renee nodded. The realm of mirrors is extremely profound. Since you have no mentor, you can only explore on your own, so it is normal for you to be suppressed by high technology. However, the power of water mirrors can be used in all aspects. When facing high-tech weapons, what you need is not yourself. To go up and fight, you need to refine all your means into part of your body's instinct. Let it be added to your own instinct for recycling and become part of the conditioned reflex. This kind of addition requires the use of one thing, the core of mind. And this is a symbolic thing that only exists in the resonance stage. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1008. So what does senior sister mean? Garen seemed to understand. You haven't reached the resonance stage, and there are no resonance level energy masters to temper your instincts. You can't use the water mirror to fight against the enemies of this era. Fighting and melee combat are, after all, ancient skills. Anything can be done. Continuously evolving based on the development of technical tools, martial arts is after all a skill developed in the era of cold weapons, and now is the era of space and universe energy weapons. Not only have there been several stages in between. If the realm of martial arts does not change with the times and does not adapt to the general trend, it will also the only fate is to be eliminated, Renee said with emotion. So my things are too old, Garen was speechless. You can understand it that way. I don't know where you learned the skills from, but those things are indeed very antique. It's hard for you to reach such a high level. Renee suddenly had a book in her hand, black. The leather-covered paper book was thrown directly to Garen, spinning. Garen gently caught it and turned it over. There were pictures of the human body with different levels of body tempering. Each picture was consecutive. Then the next picture, Garen flipped through to the end in one breath. The last picture above said clearly, reflection smelting. This is for you. You should be able to finish it within a month. This is a precious inheritance that has been condensed with the efforts of countless seniors in order to allow us pure warriors to keep up with the times. Remember, you can only smelt likewise, choose it as your main ability and integrate it into your instinct. Only then can your water mirror level truly exert its power in the area of integration, Renee whispered. How many levels are there above the water mirror? Please explain to me, senior sister. While flipping through the book, Garen completely let go of the arrogance that he had always had as a time traveler with knowledge of several worlds. Mentality, but sincerely seek help from the teacher. There is no doubt that the opponent has completely surpassed him in what he is best at. Each world has its own rules, its own splendor and brilliance, and the height of this world is even more terrifying, reaching a level unheard of in Galleons. Completely let go of your mentality and sincerely ask for advice. This is the proper respect for skills and knowledge. Only then did Renee's eyes flash with satisfaction. She has lived for thousands of years, how could she not see the slight pride in Garen's eyes? In the world of martial arts, this kind of pride is a fatal flaw before it reaches its peak. Because of pride, many people who can grow up opportunities have been passed up in vain, and there are too many examples of people who have stopped moving forward because of pride. If this inexplicable obstacle is not broken, Garen's future will not be very strong. Garen also completely corrected his mentality at this time. After all, he was just an ordinary young man on Earth at first. Perhaps his rich experience, accumulation of knowledge, and increase in strength made him stronger, and thus gradually formed extremely high self-esteem. Excessive self-esteem becomes arrogance, which is an inner demon that he has never been aware of. At this time, Garen lost the inexplicable pride he had always felt in his heart and sincerely asked his senior sister for advice. The water mirror represents the peak of instinct. The silver mirror represents the peak of chi. And the disc on top of the mirror is the height of true power to its peak. A trace of yearning flashed in Renee's eyes. Pen, Garen muttered again. Silver mirror represents that one's own strength has been accumulated to a certain extent, and the whole body will naturally generate gravitational force. Every move will trigger changes in the magnetic field, electric field, and life field in a small range, and naturally cause changes in the energy mechanism. It can leverage the power of the natural universe on its own, which is very amazing. This is the beginning of the evolution towards higher level organisms. It can be said that after entering this level, severed limbs will naturally regenerate, organs will naturally return to their youth, lifespan will be greatly extended, and teeth will grow and develop again. These are all normal things. Entering this level, lifespan can be extended by 1,000 years, Renee said slightly proudly. 1,000 years, Garen gasped. This is not the result of any genetic modification, but a natural evolution tempered by the martial arts realm. This represents the height that any human being can reach. It doesn't matter genes, even ordinary people without any resources can climb the road to the top. The woman in white next to her nodded. In the realm after the silver mirror, it took senior sister Renee 600 years to go from the water mirror to the silver mirror. She is already considered a genius among geniuses. You'd better not aim too high. It doesn't matter, Renee waved her hand, only when you know more can you understand your own insignificance. And the subsequent Pan realm is the threshold for entering the Eternal Mover without falling down. If you want to enter the Eternal Mover, you must enter the Pan realm. Level. Just listen and know the gap between yourself and those top old monsters. Garen seriously pretended to be a junior and nodded. The board represents perfection and the ultimate. The reason why it is called the board is the meaning of the chessboard. The reason why anything that is always moving is called a permanent mover means that it will never stop, has a long life, and will never stop. It means exhaustion. Renee's eyes showed a trace of longing. They form a universe of their own, and each one of them is a chess player who jumps out of the chessboard, and the levels below the eternal movers are just chess pieces on the chessboard for them, regardless of no matter how hard the chess pieces struggle, they are just jumping on the chessboard and cannot hurt the players outside the chessboard. This is the gap in realm. If you don't understand the board, you will never understand how big the gap is. How strong is that level? Garen also yearned for it. This level sounded almost like a myth. How strong? Only strong people at the same level understand that summer bugs can only live until summer and will never see winter. How can they understand how cold winter is? How can they know the changes of the 4 seasons? Renee sighed. Pan represents the highest level among us, the finite people, and all other races. Every eternal mover is the most precious strategic weapon in the universe. They have the attribute of being immortal at a different level and have a long lifespan. It's so terrifying that it's not uncommon for one person to massacre a planet. Some of the people in this dimension are rulers of planets and marshals of legions and star regions. They each hold important positions and are all terrifying figures who can suppress one party. One person can suppress a planet. Ordinary planet. Then what level is the king level? Garen thought of the legend of the king level that has been circulating in this world for a long time. King level, that is the true pinnacle of everything. It is just a legend. If the eternal movers can still be seen alive, then we can't see them at the king level. Renee laughed, they are just stretching. A single blow of the body may destroy a planet. Just exhaling a little too hard may cause the death of billions of lives. They themselves are as huge as the planet. Sometimes they curl up and sleep for thousands of years. Many of us may live with him and know nothing about him. The king level is the pinnacle of everything. Their battle legends can easily destroy a galaxy. A slightly larger star field will suffer heavy losses. Now we and Feeney, it is because of the original king level battle that both sides did not dare to restart the war. Otherwise, if the two sides fight and the king level winner is not determined, ordinary people may die. That is the end of the same death. As for the king level, how to achieve it, no one knows except themselves, at least it must be on the board. Garen took a deep breath and closed his eyes, feeling that this era was truly magnificent, far beyond the civilizations he had experienced before. This is a terrifying and powerful civilization at its peak. If the two major races hadn't restrained each other, they might have already ruled countless star fields. Probably not much better than the Warlocks. The Star Union is holding an interstellar competition. Cruelty comes first. You can jump over there and have a look when you have time. We have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs base on the Star Union. Don't worry about accommodation, food, and guides, the woman in white said with a smile. You don't have to think too much. As long as you can enter the 6th level of inheritance and reach the peak, you can already sit in a faction, enjoy thousands of years of life, and dominate one side. As for the Pan-Realm King level, just listen to those who don't take it to heart. Superior. Garen nodded silently. Indeed, the king-level figure was as huge as the planet. Such an existence was indeed unthinkable. He is far from qualified now. In addition, since you have become a disciple of Three Hearts, you must go to the Void battlefield. Before you go, you have a month to sort out your belongings and deal with various affairs. After that, you must enter the Void battlefield. This is the rule of an energy master. Everything remuneration is based on performance and contribution. If you do not meet certain mission conditions, then you are not even qualified to enter the library. If you still cannot meet the requirements after a certain period, you will be expelled from Chixu Star, the woman in white introduced. If you have nothing to do, you can go to the slave market and pick some slaves to take care of your own life. In addition, there are also slaves who can work for you and be useful. Let's enter the Void battlefield together, where you must build your own safe stronghold. Remember, don't trust anyone in the Void battlefield. That place is weird and dangerous, and void creatures are extremely camouflaged and difficult to distinguish, so be careful. The woman in white raised her hand and threw a white ring to Garen. This is your space ring as Sangzan. It's slightly better than yours. After all, that thing is worn by women, so it's better to give it back to Princess Annie. She showed a smile. Garen smiled awkwardly, took the ring, and felt it. The space inside was indeed very large, which was better than the Annie ring on his hand. Before going to the Void battlefield, I suggest you go to the surrounding area to practice, take on local tasks, and accurately determine your own strength before setting off, Renee said lightly. Brothers will compete every 5 years. Remember not to be late and not to travel too far when the time comes. Understood, Garen nodded. Okay, you can move around freely. Renee waved her hand, turned around and left slowly. It seemed slow, but she disappeared into the corridor after a while. The woman in white looked at Garen with slight appreciation. From now on, you are Chixu Seeing, the 15th three-hearted member of the entire Chixu section from the beginning to the end. The Chixu sect has only had 15 people with three-hearted quotas. You have caught up, luck. Not averagely good. Only 15 people? Garen's heart felt a little wary. Except for the elders and the guardians, everyone else is handed over to themselves. They are all equal in status. In the entire Chixu sect, you are now the 15th highness. The woman in white used a method that only the imperial nobles and royal families would use. Call. Your Highness, Garen was stunned. Of course, otherwise you think why the Three Heart disciples are so popular? These are the 15 strongest people in the future, representing the entire Chixu section. If you die in battle or lose to the Two Heart disciples in a competition every 5 years, you only need to lose 3 times. You will be revoked from the Third Heart and compete for this spot with the Second Heart. Of course, this is nothing to you. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1009. Those with less than 1000 points will be the most suitable ones. There are not many choices. Garen tends to attack. The best defense is to no longer need to defend, that is, to kill the enemies. It is useless to defend when the enemies have been killed. This is his philosophy. However, because of the secret martial arts style and the realm of fighting skills, he prefers direct and simple frontal methods of head-on confrontation. But in the last duel, I found that my killing move was not powerful enough. That's it. An attack-biased technique appeared in front of Garen. Prison Demon Knife, Level 5 Ice Technique, requires 1000 points. On the surface, the exercises here seem to have matching methods of exercising and maintaining the body, but in fact, these supporting training methods are naturally far inferior to the level of Qixuyigong. Therefore, these exercises are said to be exercises, but they are actually more. It should be regarded as a killing technique, a series of killing techniques. The real skills and skills should be separated. The power of the killing skills promoted by different skills will naturally be different. It is like the same sword technique, the effect of different attributes of internal force will be different. These killing skills can all be promoted with Qixuyigong. The Hell Demon Sword is a simple set of killing skills. The highest power is in the Resonance Crescent stage. Of course, this is the power of pure sword skills. Its characteristic is not the power of a single attack, but the ability to attack in a very short time. Within a certain period of time, 3 terrifying superimposed sword moves were erupted. This kind of burst occurs 3 times in a row, and each sword has twice the power and range of the previous one. 3 consecutive strikes can produce terrifying damage in a range of hundreds of meters and triple the power. Of course, the starting conditions are very harsh. Garen read the activation conditions carefully. It puts a huge load on the body. Every time it is used 3 times in a row, one's internal organs will be damaged. Most resonance level people would not dare to practice the set of killing techniques. Garen contacted the database to inquire about the information on this set of sword techniques, and bought it outright. The database shows that this set of sword techniques has once beaten 3 resonance level energy masters to death. Just because they were beaten to death after using this set of sword techniques twice in an hour, the power is naturally very powerful. Fear. However, Garen was confident in his strong physique and resilience, so he didn't care much about this. Finally, he regretfully looked at the other marks. There were those who practiced special body movements and steps, those who simply stimulated potential secret methods, similar to his former Tiangang tyranny, and those who changed their appearance and gender pervertedly, and practiced secret methods on the eyes, etc. Wait, all kinds of terrifying and powerful killing techniques are neatly arranged here. It's almost time to go back. Unfortunately, there are too few points. Garen sighed regretfully. But getting this Hell Demon Sword block killing skill this time should be considered a good harvest. A few days later, a red shadow suddenly flashed in the pine forest. It was a huge red python with thick arms. The snake's head was spitting out its core, and its eyes were staring fiercely at the white-robed man standing not far in front. Suck. The sides of the red python's head suddenly bulged, and then it puffed out a stream of thick black smoke, slamming into the white-robed man with high-speed kinetic energy. Chi. A bright sword flashed away, pulling out a white line. There was a trace of black air surrounding the sword light, and it struck accurately between the red python and the black mist. With a crash, the entire red python was chopped into 2 pieces, and blood spread all over the floor. However, the moment it splashed towards the man, it was blocked by an invisible force field. Garen looked at the red python split into 2 pieces with satisfaction. The red python, a level 5 mutated creature, can be made into good arm and leg guards. It also has a lot of flesh and blood and tastes good. Senior brother Garen, did you choose this location? Bernstad walked out from behind him, and Silco, both of them were a little cautious. This is a terrifying place that is divided into a standard 5-level dangerous biological zone. On Earth, any insect could kill 2 people. After all, they were just ordinary weapon masters at the 2nd level. After the 2 people walked out, 2 more red humanoid mechas slowly came out from behind. Two twin beautiful girls could be seen in the transparent cockpit of the mecha. Everything around here has been detected. This red python is the last threat and has been eliminated by His Highness. A girl's clear voice came from a mecha. Well, let's practice here. Garen nodded. After he returned the space ring to Annie these days, the other party even tried to give the ring to him, but he declined politely and saw that he had no chance. The two sisters were standard 5th level pilots. They looked very young, only in their teens, but they had taken the medicine to fix their appearance. The life-extending potion for keeping your figure in your teens is already in your 20s. It just looks a little petite and childish because of the medicine. Little 1 and 2, you guys go and set up temporary camps and beast extermination lines respectively, Garen ordered. Understood. The two mechas separated and took action. Silco and Bernstad released a black dragonfly and a small white snake respectively, and quickly flew out to investigate the surroundings. Garen shook his head, seeing that the two men's energy weapons were only at the pitiful level 2, and knew that they couldn't do much to help him here. You two should just go back and manage my Black Wolf Snow Peak. The level here is too high and it's not a place you can keep up with now. This is the only way. Bernstad also knew that the two of him were a drag. Not only would they not be promoted here, they would only be a drag on Galen. Hilk sighed. She sat in the electronic chair, because retardation mainly relies on consciousness to control actions, which is even more of a drag. Why don't Hilk stay? Just warm the boss's bed, hee, Bernstad said with a strange smile when he saw Hilk's downcast expression. To sum up, although the two twins are as beautiful as Zilke, they are not as temperamental as her. That kind of pure and strong heroic spirit, but they have delicate and smooth skin, as if they are milk jelly. There is a strong contrast between temperament and appearance. Such a girl is indeed the best in the world. There were many people who wanted to attack Zirk when they were in Swafeng. If it weren't for Garen's protection, she might have become someone else's favorite. Hearing Bernstad's words, Hilk lowered his head and did not refute. Her long light brown hair ponytail slid down from her neck. This girl looked like the little sister next door, cute, fragile, but possessing a strong heart. Go back, it is very dangerous for you to stay here. Garen breathed out, and he recalled Xylan's appearance again. It has been several months since the last contact, and this time he became the third heart. Once you get a foothold, you might consider bringing Xylan and the others over to live together. I heard that Sangzan can have its own territory. He will eventually go back to the Black Pan territory. Wait until he breaks through the inheritance level, and find the Black Annihilation sect to settle the accounts. He is still too weak now. Okay. Anyway, you already have 2 bed heaters. Now Hill is useless. It doesn't matter if you want it or not. Bernstad thought about it casually. He had already seen that Hill had a heart full of it. All fell on Garen. It is true that an elite genius like Garen, who has good looks, a good figure, a high status, and a promising future, is likely to be a real high-level and powerful figure in the Scarlet Snow sect in the future. Silco's strength and status are far worthy of him. If you are not like him, you will not be able to bear the various pressures and responsibilities from higher levels. Once that level is not handled well, it can even become a fatal vulnerability for Galen. In this way, even if Garen and Hill are better, they will never marry her in the future, and there will never be any results between them. Hilk's face suddenly turned a little pale. She is not an innocent person who likes fantasy, but when all the luck and little fantasies are completely torn apart, the pain is indeed something she has not experienced in a long time. Go back and have a good rest, Bernstad comforted him. He knew what his friend was thinking, and he also knew that compared to a genius like Garen, who has nothing but his own body, there is a gap between them. It is simply heaven and earth. But at this time, he hoped that Garen would be the playboy type. Even if it was just for fun, leaving behind a good memory and a bloodline would give Hill, who no longer had any relatives, some thoughts and sustenance. Get on the airship and leave the pine forest. Under Garen's arrangement, the two of them were escorted to the portal by a younger twin, and were teleported directly back to Black Wolf Peak. It's still snowy day here on the Black Wolf Peak of Naga Star. The two got off the airship and watched Xiaoyi turn around and leave. I'm leaving, Xieke suddenly said. This is the first time I like someone, but if this feeling continues like this, nothing will come of it. Bernstad was helpless. Where do you plan to go? Fortunately, senior brother Jia Long took good care of both of them, and the resources he received during these times were considered very good among ordinary disciples. It is very simple to find a place to live peacefully in the future and live in anonymity for the rest of your life without worrying about food and clothing. I don't know, maybe I will leave Naga Star and go back to my hometown. Zilke pinched her bangs and answered in a daze. You can come and see me when you have time. There was silence for a long time before Bernstad spoke. I will. He looked at Zirk and hesitated to speak. If you need any help, you must remember to ask. I can solve small things, but I don't think senior brother Jia Long will just sit back and do nothing about big things. Hilk breathed out. Bane, tell me, if I keep insisting, will there be any results? Bane smiled helplessly. Result? They would only be pushed further and further away from Garen, making it impossible to keep up with him. Maybe he will become a senior member of his staff in the future and be rich and wealthy throughout his life, but this is not the kind of result he'll wants. Unless you don't want your identity and just be his lover. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1010. Lover, Hill smiled, showing a hint of stubbornness. That's not what she wants, she has her pursuits and dreams. Everyone will face many choices in life, and each choice may turn into a completely different path. Bernstad breathed out, I hope you can stay. I can see that. Senior brother Jialong is one of those people who doesn't care about others, but once you really get into his heart, he will give you an explanation no matter what. Explain, Zirk shook his head, I like him, but he just pities me. Only pity. Why don't you choose me? We are old acquaintances anyway, so we don't want to take advantage of outsiders. Bernstad chuckled. Forget it. Be careful, I tell Sister Victor. Hill patted him speechlessly. Besides, it's not like we won't be able to contact each other after we leave. Now that technology is so advanced, even if we go to the finite people, we still have a way to contact them. What are we afraid of? That's right. It's up to you how you decide. I'll give you a piece of advice from my senior brother. Bernstad shrugged. The originally sad atmosphere was completely lost by him, and Hill rolled his eyes at him speechlessly. Forget it, I'll go back and pack my things and order the teleportation ticket. Go ahead, go back early, I believe you will be able to come back sooner or later. Bernstad looked like he wanted to be beaten to death. Go to hell, Hilk snorted, completely losing his sadness, and quickly left in the electronic chair. Chixyuxing. In dense pine forest. Garen's body was slightly suspended in mid-air, surrounded by an inexplicable invisible force field that held it up and suspended it. 5 rays of red glow flowed around him from time to time, constantly spinning and swimming around him like swimming fish. It looks gorgeous. A pile of red malachite was piled next to him. This was part of the ore that Princess Ani had shipped to him in advance. Pieces of malachite are continuously being absorbed by Galleon's essence, and are dimming at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if the red crystal is gradually being filled with various kinds of rust. Absorbing these red malachites, my peacock body finally started to move again. Garen saw that the 7th level of his cold hell peacock skill finally made progress again, and he felt relieved. Almost hundreds of dollars have been absorbed now, and the progress has changed from the original 5% to the current 15%. The environment here is also good, suitable for seclusion and practice. It's a pity that you can't keep absorbing malachite here until you improve. Otherwise, you may have a certain improvement in strength. Garen felt calm. It has been 5 or 6 years since he came to Chixu sect, and he has grown from a 3rd level energy weapon master to a 5th level energy weapon master now. It can even leapfrog and fight against the crescent level. This kind of growth rate is already very fast for ordinary people, but for geniuses, it is only average. But no matter what kind of genius he is, when he reaches the resonance stage, he will instantly slow down and be blocked for a long time. For example, Carthage has been at this stage for 3 years, but unfortunately he has not yet broken through to the inheritance level. It's not him, there are many geniuses who are like this. For example, it was the same in the black disk domain back then. The top geniuses were blocked from staying at the resonance level for who knows how many years, or even decades. For energy masters, this stage is the key to condensing their own core. The quality of the condensation will directly affect the subsequent level of inheritance level strength and the possibility of future advancement. Now, Galen also has to face this critical threshold. While meditating, Garen continued to absorb the red malachite around him. Pieces of red malachite were continuously absorbed and turned into white ash and scattered. I don't know how long it took, but the twins were boiling water and cooking at the nearby camp. After eating, they were about to go into the camp to rest. Whoosh! Suddenly there was a sharp whistling sound in the distance, as if something was flying directly through the air, from far to near. The sound quickly approached the large pine forest on the side of Garen and others. Suddenly, a black light pulled out a black line and passed over the heads of Garen and others, and then quickly disappeared into the distant sky. Garen opened his eyes and glanced at the black light. He showed no expression and quietly closed his eyes to continue practicing. But after passing by the black light, not long after, the sound of someone moving was faintly heard in the pine forest. "G.E. Lee, watch your back," a man's voice sounded low. Snapped. It seemed like some kind of insect had been beaten to death, and there was still a faint chirping sound of struggling. Among them was a woman's somewhat panicked cry, obviously frightened. "Sleep-eating insect, a 3rd level mutated creature, be careful," the man's voice came again. The twin boys beside Garen stood up and stepped forward vigilantly, standing in front of Garen. Not long after, a small team gradually came out of the pine forest in front of them. They were uniformly dressed in black and wore special communication headsets on their heads. They each held a handful of short black sticks in their hands, which seemed to be used to push away the enemies. Poisonous insects and plants and things like that. His body fell instantly. Garen opened his eyes and glanced at the team. The captain was a strong man with bright eyes, tall and powerful, and his face was calm and resolute, giving people a sense of safety and reliability. Except for a delicate red-haired girl with a ponytail, the rest of them all had indifferent faces and walked extremely skillfully. They were all obviously jungle veterans. As soon as the two people met, the captain was obviously stunned, as if he didn't expect to meet people so accidentally in a place like this. You must know that this is the legendary 5th level mutant biological zone. The dangerous creatures here can reach the highest level 5, and even above is not impossible. This kind of place does not have a skilled person like him to lead the team, and you want to enter such a deep place safely. Is also very difficult. He, Annan, had been working as a mercenary in the nearby Hammer City for so long, so he had a natural eye. He could tell at a glance that Garen and the twins were a typical combination of rich young men. There are many examples of girls who sleep with each other and go out for sightseeing. But there are very few young masters who dare to come to the level 5 danger zone. I am Annan from the Donglei Mercenary Regiment. I don't know what the three of you are planning to do by stationing here. The insect tide is coming soon, and this place may become very dangerous, Annan reminded with a frown. Seeing that the three of them were not very old, he didn't see the way that Garen's body was floating just now. He just regarded the three of them as a small team out for fun. Garen looked at the team. There were 3 men and 3 women, plus the protected red-haired girl with ponytail. There were 7 people. Except for the protected one, the rest were all very professional. I just don't know why this group of people didn't pass through here by airship, but chose to walk. Are they looking for something in this pine forest? You are free to do as you like. He smiled slightly and pointed to the passable road on the side. The twin waiters pointed out the direction of the passage for them to leave. Of course, the insect-tide Garen knew what it was, but it was just a group of second-level mutant bugs gathered together. It might be a bit of a deterrent to others, but to him, the halo spread, the radiation spread, and as many bugs came as they could, they would die. To some extent, low-level groups were not qualified for him to even approach him. Not just him, but any 5th-level energy master will not be killed by such a low-level numerical group. The Chixu-Sex range of range-cold attacks have always been extremely famous. The waiter looked at the group of people with some curiosity. The girl who was being protected looked a little haggard and looked bad. She seemed to have not rested for a long time. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she had obviously cried for a long time. Clear it. She pointed to the cleared road to let the team pass. Anand sighed and led the team past the camp. He just gave a kind reminder. When he was about to pass the camp, his good-natured nature showed up again, and he turned around and asked again. The emergence of an insect queen, this time in the insect tide, may be more powerful than a normal insect tide. You must be careful. Come on, uncle, we don't have much time to lose, the protected girl in the team urged anxiously. Just give them an insect repellent pill. Pesticide. Garen didn't expect that the group of people he met unexpectedly were actually kind-hearted. Sure enough, the captain reached out and threw a black pill, which landed in front of Garen. It was caught accurately by Xiao Yi. Little brother, you better leave quickly. When the insect wave comes later, you will be trapped for at least several days. Even if you are not afraid, Anand couldn't help but remind him again. Thanks for reminding me, I will pay attention. Garen nodded and smiled. The protected girl on the other team continued to urge. Forget it if they don't leave. Hurry up, uncle. They're not afraid of you. Why are you worried? This has happened so many times along the way. You have to notify everyone. It took us 5 days to travel so far. When you are away from home, you should remind each other to help each other. If you help others today, you may be helped by others in a while. A mercenary girl in the team replied calmly. You mercenaries are trouble, the red-haired ponytail girl shouted impatiently. The group of people quickly walked away and gradually disappeared into the pine forest. Garen withdrew his gaze and asked Xiao Yi to use a machine to check the ingredients of the pills. They are all dewormed, no problem. Xiao Yi put down the pills and nodded to Garen. You can move around freely, just don't go too far around, Garen said calmly. Yes. The 2 girls responded respectfully and continued to wait by Garen's side for another hour or 2. However, the girl's temperament couldn't bear it. The 2 placed some warning props and went out to hang out and relax. Ever since they were assigned to Galen, they had actually become completely out of touch with their familiar life before. They had entered a completely unfamiliar living environment, so much so that they had been acting submissive and had no personality of their own, just like machines that could execute orders. People are no different. Garen let them wander around to let them relax. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1011. In this way, we continue to practice, eat, and sleep every day, and the cycle continues, and practice passes day by day. The insect tide was nothing to Galleons. A week passed in the blink of an eye. Garen also completely integrated the newly acquired Hell Demon Sword. With his level of martial arts, this set of sword-killing techniques is not difficult and does not require much energy. It mainly requires strong physical fitness. And it just so happened that his physique fully met the conditions, so it was normal for him to succeed in practice. I have practiced the Hell Demon Sword Galleon for a while, but I haven't actually practiced it yet, but I can still feel the powerful explosive power in it. The two swords in front of Garen drew a black moon, which was an illusory illusion caused by the instantaneous reflection and emission of light from the blades. It looks like a black moon, but it is actually the terrifying knife marks made by the double swords in an instant. Garen jumped up slightly, from top to bottom, holding the two swords together in his right hand, and slashed downwards in the air. Double prison lock, the powerful killing move from the prison demon sword suddenly erupted. The two swords merged together and struck the ground hard. With a bang, the entire ground soil flew up, and a huge fan-shaped area of destruction appeared in front of Garen. The fan shape extends from the foot of Galen to the foot of the big pine tree more than 10 meters away. Strangely, the entire pine tree was not harmed at all, showing its transcendent and powerful control. So strong, Xiao Xiao applauded vigorously behind Garen. They have become familiar with Garen these days, and the two girls have gradually relaxed and stopped being very reserved. Occasionally they dare to joke with Garen. They all have a rough idea of Garen's temperament. As long as he doesn't cause trouble and delay things, Garen is still very easygoing in life, and he is a superior who is easy to get along with. Garen smiled. Two level 5 pilots could control the mecha and unleash such attack power at a single stroke. The applause of the two girls was just a simple compliment. Withdrawing his swords, Garen suddenly looked towards the pine forest. Xiao Xiao immediately walked over and stood in front of Garen, holding a sharp metal thorn in his hidden hand. She looked like a cute and innocent ordinary black-haired girl, but in fact she could unleash a terrifying killing move at any time. In fact, they are all powerful transformers carefully selected by the royal family. Their bodies are powerful warriors that were personally transformed by Princess Annie, entrusting her elders to master the art of mechanics. Not only do they have level 5 pilot consciousness, but they also have the powerful and alluring soft body, even has a special physical talent for pleasing the opposite sex, and can provide several times more pleasure than ordinary women. This is a nearly perfect tool that Annie gave to Garen. The only flaw is that it cannot be upgraded. All their potential has been stimulated, and it is impossible to improve any strength. Not just Galleons, but many great royal families have such transformers. They have dedicated female power mechanics who transform the body into the strongest state, and can also transform it into a special sensitive physique that is easiest to please the opposite sex. Don't be nervous. It's just a group of passers-by. Garen smiled, put away his swords, and put them back into the sheaths on his waist. These days, he has been studying how to combine the killing techniques he learned in the Ghost Mothership to form stronger power. The Hell Demon Sword is powerful, but there is no way to control it when released. It is a burst range type ultimate move. It consumes a lot of money to use. If you can't kill the enemy, it will be your turn to die. It is not a technique suitable for daily use. The Sonic Kung Fu and Double Speed Fist are not too heavy loaded. If their power can be combined, they are not weak. They can at least reach the level of 5th level killing techniques. By then, they will be enough. Originally, these two techniques were only learned from level 3 mutated creatures. Withdrawing his attention, Garen had already seen a group of figures in white appearing in the pine forest in front of him. The group of people was not afraid of being conspicuous. They walked in the forest with a white sound and headed straight for Garen. This group of people were dressed very strangely, with weird twisted black masks on their heads. Their faces could not be seen clearly, and their bodies were wrapped tightly in white. When walking, it gives people a strong and murderous aura. The leader was a tall, thin man wearing a round hat. "Boy, have you seen this person?" He walked not far from Galen, raised his hand, and opened an electronic paper roll, which revealed the appearance of a beautiful girl with a red ponytail. "What are you looking for her for?" Garen raised his eyebrows and asked casually. Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask, otherwise you will get into trouble, a white mask beside the tall and thin man said with a sharp chuckle. This guy's tone is very rude. Garen frowned. Getting into trouble? What trouble? Tell me. Are all the boys today so arrogant? What nonsense are you talking to him about? He's just a kid from a rich family. Catch him and ask his family to redeem him. You can make some extra money. Hee. A man in a white mask suddenly stretched out his hand, and his arm was like an electric drill. It turned at high speed and directly grabbed the chest of the waiter beside Garen. You better let me enjoy such a beautiful girl. Before he finished speaking, his arm was already close to Xiao Er's chest. White ghost, Garen narrowed his eyes. No wonder he wanted to arrest people at every turn. He didn't expect it to be them. He has also read some information about Chixu, seeing the white ghost must be the three-hearted subordinate force within the Chixu sect, but no one knows which one they are. They only know that their identities are mysterious, and each of them is powerful and arrogant. On the Chixu planet, only the people of the Chixu sect can be so arrogant. After all, the other sects on the planet are just branches of the Chixu sect, and they are the main sect. Clang. The hand of the white mask hit Xiao Er's spikes. Xiao Er snorted and was about to fight back with his bare hands. Okay, stop, Garen suddenly said. Xiao Er's spikes instantly stopped at the throat of the white masked man, just a hair away from killing him. But it was also blocked in front by a thin metal wire. The seemingly fragile metal wire was not damaged at all by the puncture of the sharp thorns. The other end of the metal wire is connected to the hand of the leader of the White Ghosts. He stared at Garen with cold eyes. It turns out he is from His Highness 15th. No wonder he is so powerful. But even if His Highness 15th, it is against the rules to stop us from arresting people like this, right? Garen didn't expect that he recognized his identity and dared to speak in such a tone. It seems that in the minds of the people below, his strength as the 15th Highness is really limited. You arrest people? Who do you belong to, and who do you want to arrest? The tall and thin man bowed slightly to Garen and laughed. His Highness 15? To give him face is to call him His Highness, but what qualifications does a 4th-level weapon master have to let veteran weapon masters like them call him His Highness? The name of the Chixu sect is not determined by rowing, but by killing. Moreover, they have even besieged the 7th Highness, not to mention the 15th Highness, even, he. The tall and lanky man felt a pang in his heart. If His Highness 15 stayed calm, he might be able to give him some face. Our arrest is the intention of the higher UPS, what? His Highness 15th also wants to get involved. The tall and thin man's tone turned cold. It doesn't matter, you can do your own thing. Garen smiled angrily and said no more. Obviously he didn't intend to ask in detail. The tall and thin man snorted coldly and led the people through the side of the camp. White ghosts. All the 3 disciples of the Great Elder are inside. They are really not easy to mess with. Garen's side. As soon as these words were spoken, even the little boy and the second boy curled their lips with contempt. Even after being arrogantly shown off by someone with a lower status than him, he still remained so submissive, not even daring to say a harsh word. Do they still dare to commit the following crime? The waiter said, unconvinced. My lord, why are you so afraid of him? You are His Highness. Garen shook his head. The White Ghosts are not an ordinary team, they are very, very powerful. He said, turning around and continuing to practice the Hell Demon Sword and the fusion of killing techniques. The little boy and the boy looked at each other helplessly, feeling a little discouraged. After following such a coward master, he didn't know how angry he would be in the future. Little did the 2 of them know that what Garen was talking about was powerful, not strength, but the characteristic of not being able to do anything early without benefit. He has carefully investigated and found that any place where white ghosts are haunted must have great benefits and treasures. In addition, White Ghost is Yu Hui's power, and such an opportunity happens to happen. If I don't investigate it carefully, I would be really sorry for myself if I don't eat the meat that comes to my mouth. Anyway, the feud with Yu Hui has been forged. If you do it once, it will be a grudge, and if you do it twice, it will be the same. Let's just fight it to the end. Even if nothing is gained, ruining the White Ghost's plan is still a good result. A strange color flashed in Garen's eyes. The faint black shadows in the pine forest disappeared quickly, quietly following the White Ghost team leaving in front. You can't escape, golly Edward. In the sea of red maple leaves, Annan's mercenary team looked ugly and was surrounded by the White Ghosts. The tall and thin man walked out of the White Ghost team, with a hint of joking in his eyes under the mask. After handing over the ice demonic pillar and getting Teslin's treasure, as long as you serve me well, it's not impossible to spare your life and just treat me as a slave. The ice demonic pillar is not on me. Ji Li looked panicked, but she just managed to calm down. 15 teams have been wiped out, and you are the only one left. What a good strategy. Divide into 15 teams and escape in separate directions. Moreover, you still have the most distinguished young master as a bait to distract the people, he said coldly. It's a pity that you have forgotten my current identity. Anthony, give up. The thing is not on me at all. Ji Li tried her best to steady her trembling body. Mr. Edward, who loves his daughter dearly, would not put anything on you. Anthony, the tall and thin man, chuckled. Okay, stop struggling. I don't want to kill anyone. To get the ice demon pillar, I need to use the blood from your eyebrows to kill the acromentalis. Julie's face was pale, and she finally took out something from her arms. It was a pale white cylinder, only the size of a palm, with a miniature giant lizard entwined on it. It was also white and looked delicate and ancient. The lizard on it seemed to be a living thing. His eyes sparkled slightly. Take it. But you have to swear not to kill me, Julie said loudly, trying to steady her voice. You are the person I have liked since childhood. Kill you? Is it too late for me to play with you? Anthony, the tall and thin man, laughed. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1012. Julie's expression changed, and she suddenly felt that everything in her hand was suddenly empty, and the ice magic pillar appeared in Anthony's hand across from her in an instant. Tisk tisk. It's indeed a legacy magic weapon. It's not in vain that we spent so much effort to solve your Edward family. Let's go, don't keep His Highness Sixth waiting. A white ghost next to Anthony said. Kindness. The white ghosts and the others surrounded the mercenaries and others, held them hostage and rushed away quickly. This maple forest soon became deserted, but vaguely. Several black shadows flashed like black smoke and followed the group of people just as far away. Huh, suddenly a black shadow stopped, and it was a slender figure covered in black. He turned around. I don't know when an equally dark figure appeared behind me. The man was leaning against a tree, his body constantly exuding a strong freezing air. Second brother, didn't you go to the void battlefield? Why did you appear here? The black shadow looked at the voice leaning on the tree and sneered. Brother, didn't you go to track down the smuggled goods? Why did you appear in a place like this? You are a misophobic person. Didn't such a dirty place dirty your shoes? The other party agreed and sneered. You want the ice magic scroll too? A good thing that can increase the chance of my Qi Shui Gong breaking through to the inheritance level. Big brother, your subordinates dare to do it on their own. Are we, brothers, not as good as one of your subordinates? The figure beside the tree said calmly. Second brother, you are so talented, why do you care about something as trivial as the ice demon scroll? The cold dragon flame from Carthage is the most suitable for you, right? The boss said softly. The acromentalis is a heritage-level giant beast. I was also worried about whether your right-hand man could handle it, So I came to help. The second child chuckled. In addition, a friend can also come out. His eyes slowly fell on the grass under another tree where nothing unusual could be seen. Bang bang bang. Amidst crisp applause, a giant black wolf carrying a man also covered in black appeared on the edge of the grass. Ice magic scroll. Can you add good things that can break through the inheritance level? I never thought that I would come across such a good opportunity when I just go out for a walk. It's really luck that I can't stop. A mutated voice sounded in the air. When it sounds, it gives people a sharp and weird temperament. If you want something, you have to see if you have the qualifications. The old man suddenly shot out an invisible cold air and silently rushed towards the black wolf under the man's seat. Surprisingly, this cold air did not emit the slightest chill. Instead of flying across the air, it moved to another point in a way that was almost a dimensional jump. Windless flying blade, this is a powerful skill that he has mastered for decades. Although it was just a casual blow, it was enough as a test. The cold air suddenly appeared in front of the black wolf and was about to hit the black wolf's head. Once hit, the entire black wolf would be directly frozen into ice cubes by this huge and tyrannical force and then completely shattered into countless pieces by the stamina. Everything happened in an instant, almost as fast as the blink of an eye, and the black wolf man suddenly drew his knife. Bang! A black line slashed straight down from top to bottom, just in the middle of the flying cold air blade. The black line blade suddenly screamed, and black energy erupted from the whole body, covering the surface of the blade. Under the influence of this black energy, the power suddenly doubled. Silently, the flying blades of cold air connected with the blades. The two did not make any sound, and simply annihilated each other and disappeared. Prison demon sword technique, the second child snorted, seeming to think of someone. You can use this knife so easily. Since it's you, you are qualified to share the secret volume with us equally. The boss then spoke up, but aren't you in retreat to make a breakthrough? Do you need to worry about my affairs? The black wolf man's heart moved. The other party seemed to have mistaken him for someone else, and simply sneered. Okay, I still don't believe it when people say you're crazy, but now it seems that's true, the boss said angrily. Since it is you, you are indeed qualified to share it with us, but the secret volume can only be shared by the three of us, and no more people. The second child stared at the black wolf figure with some fear. According to rumors, this person is ridiculously powerful. If not, the two of them may not be able to suppress each other together, and they will never compromise so easily. Whatever you want, the black wolf man chuckled. Absolutely no more. The more living people the secret scroll sees, the weaker its power will be, Lao Er warned in a cold voice. What if someone comes again? The boss chuckled. That's the enemy of the three of us. Let's work together to kill him, the second child said grimly. I agree, the black wolf man said casually. Humph, the boss turned around and disappeared into the darkness instantly. The other two also disappeared into the darkness. The speed is astonishingly fast, far exceeding the average level 5. The black wolf man quickly left the place and waited for more than 10 minutes before setting up a shield in a dark place to remove the covering radiation shadow. Amazing. It's really amazing. Garen looked down at his right hand. The sword strike just now was his full strength, but it could only offset the cold energy of the opponent's random attack. The eldest and second eldest brother, needless to say, he also figured out the identities of the other two, the first third heart Ronbire and the second third heart Barada on the elder's side. Yuehui's high-ranking figures are all veteran resonance double moon level masters. The sword he unleashed with all his strength was only able to offset the opponent's casual attack. This gap. It would be really troublesome if it was discovered. But can the Ice Demon Scroll increase the chance of breaking through to the inheritance level? Garen's eyes flashed with a fierce look. You can't miss this kind of good thing. It was rare for him to be lucky enough to encounter such an opportunity. As for danger, if you are afraid of danger, why should you practice martial arts? Just go home and feed yourself. Risks and benefits coexist. It is a good thing that attracts even the masters of the 2-month resonance level. If it can be shared, this accumulation will be really powerful. Maybe I can use this thing to break through to a new level in a short time. In the sea of pine trees. In front of a black rock wall, the white ghosts and the others held Ge Li and others hostage and quickly walked through the forest and stood in front of the rock wall. Is this here? Anthony, the leader of the 100 ghosts, stared at the rock wall in confusion. No matter how you look at it, this is just an ordinary rock wall. This is it, Ge Li confirmed. Anthony nodded and began to observe carefully. On the other hand, mercenaries Annan and others all had grim faces. They were just mercenaries temporarily hired by Geli. They said they would pay a crystal to escort her here. They did not expect to encounter such a big danger. White Ghost, this is a terrorist organization with a notorious reputation. Even the major city lords are afraid of them, let alone ordinary mercenaries like them. Turn it on? Everyone is on alert at all times. Anthony seemed to have finished the inspection, stood back and began to take out a small silver needle and hold it in his hand. A look of caution flashed in his eyes. Julie was pushed by him, gritted her teeth, walked to the rock wall, and slowly began to form weird handprints with her hands. Hiss. Suddenly, a pale white mark lit up on her body. It was the first mudra she had just made, followed by the second and third. There were more and more marks on Ge Li's body, and they became thicker and thicker, and her whole body was faintly filled with white light. Hiss. There was another subtle inhalation sound, long and low. It was still weak at the beginning, but as time went by, this inhalation sound became stronger and louder. Brother, be careful. Suddenly a white ghost knocked Anthony down hard. At this moment, a blood-red shadow suddenly penetrated the area where Anthony's head was, like a sharp sword. With a squeak, it instantly penetrated into the head of a white ghost nearby. With a crash, the white ghost's head exploded and turned into countless plasma and brains. It's a necromantula. Get away. Anthony struggled to push away the white ghost on his body, got up and rushed towards Ge Li. His steps were weird, as if he were jumping with his feet stacked on top of each other, but his speed was astonishingly fast. Suddenly, he felt his heels being dragged by something. When he looked back, he saw that it was the white ghost who had knocked him down before. He stretched out his hand and grabbed his hind legs tightly. Get out. Anthony didn't know at this time that this person was actually causing trouble. Heart of lightning, he roared suddenly. His whole body suddenly lit up with blue light, and a blue mark flashed between his forehead and eyebrows. Suddenly, countless electric currents burst out from Anthony's body, blasting the white ghost away. Anthony! You killed my father! You robbed my family's secret treasure! I want you to die. Goli's whole body glowed with white light, her face twisted into a lizard's face, and then returned to a human face. An inhuman feeling. Before she finished speaking, she rushed directly to Anthony. At this moment, a cloud of grey mud suddenly rose from under the forest floor and headed straight towards Anthony. Die! A young boy's voice came from the mud. Hearing this voice, Anthony's face slowly returned to calm, and even showed a smile. Beirut, Goli, Angel, he roared. Electricity surged through his body, and a light blue electric orchid suddenly bloomed. Slowly unfold the petals in all directions. I am your biological uncle, and you are actually attacking me like this? It really makes me sad. Anthony turned around, and the electric petals crashed into the two people rushing around. A young body exploded out of the mud and was thrown away, landing far away in the pine forest. Julie was also numbed by the huge electric current, and most of the white marks on her body were wiped out at once. The heart of lightning should belong to my father, she cried out sadly, and once again wanted to rush towards Anthony, but was swept by a bolt of electricity, paralyzing her whole body and almost falling to the ground. Only then did the others have the chance to rush over and restrain Geli. As for the mercenaries, they didn't even dare to move. Several of them were paralyzed by the huge electric current and they didn't dare to say a word. The mercenary leader Anan also roughly guessed the identities of several people present. I sighed in my heart, a little helpless. The Lanbing family has always been a well-known local family, but suddenly something happened overnight. Unexpectedly, it was the work of a traitor. The old patriarch was a resonance crescent level master and the leader of one of the three major forces in the city. However, he was deceived by his own relatives and died brutally. The family treasure was taken away. The people who just surrounded and killed Anthony were the old patriarch's daughter Geli and his son Beirut, and nephew Angel. The three of them had survived the catastrophe, so it was natural for them to rush out for revenge. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1013. The sneak attack of the Acromantula and the simultaneous siege of the three were actually resisted by Anthony. As a result, the hope of survival of the three of them became even slimmer. Are you okay? Anan helped his team member up. It's okay, Captain, what should we do next? The team member moved his numb body and looked a little ugly. Anthony has joined the White Ghost now. This man is ruthless and will never leave any room. If this continues, the Acromantalis will come out in a while. We will seize the opportunity and retreat when the time comes, Anan whispered. The two right-hand players immediately made eye contact and nodded slightly. Heart of Lightning. There was a low growl. On the edge of the rock wall not far away, Anthony's body was filled with electricity and he shot out wildly, once again blowing away the three people who were besieging him. He walked towards Geli step by step, picked up her who was already limp and unable to stand up, and gently picked her up with his fingertips, and a stream of blood flowed from the center of Geli's eyebrows. The strange thing about this stream of blood is that it did not fall with gravity, but rushed straight towards the opposite rock wall like a sword. Roar! Suddenly a roar of wild beasts came from under the rock wall. The entire rock wall actually moved. A trace of fanaticism flashed in Anthony's eyes, as he watched the blood shoot directly onto the rock wall, and then quickly corroded the black rock on the rock wall like sulfuric acid. Strangely, after the rock was corroded, traces of white gold blood actually flowed out. Call. The rock wall suddenly moved, and two huge blood-red tongues spurted out from both sides, wrapping around Anthony in the middle. Only then did everyone really see clearly that it was not a rock wall at all, but a huge lizard lying on the ground in disguise. It has 8 eyes on its head and 2 small mouths on both sides, from which the 2 tongues just spit out. Lightning contract, Anthony suddenly stretched out his hand and slapped the corroded part of the giant lizard. Large streams of electric current burst out from his body and poured into the giant lizard's body. Roar! The Acromantula struggled painfully. Lightning contract. He wants to control the giant lizard. Quick! Stop him, Geli screamed and wanted to pounce, but she was completely powerless. She barely got up and fell to the ground again. There's no way he can succeed. No one in the family has ever succeeded in 100 years. Impossible. Impossible, the little boy in the mud reluctantly got up, his body covered with wounds and bloody marks, and his whole body was almost a bloody man. Let's take action together, Angel yelled and jumped out from the ground. He was the white ghost who just held Anthony back. Thunder! He roared wildly, and his whole body crazily launched an invisible force field like thunder. Seeing this scene, both Geli and Beirut knew that this was their last chance. If Anthony had freed his hands, the 3 of them would have died without knowing how. Thunder, the 2 yelled at the same time. This is a desperate move, the most powerful joint death move in the family's Ice and Thunder Kung Fu. All the ice and snow electric fields in the body will burst out in an instant. The electric field of the three people merged into one, and suddenly gathered into a blackhead-sized electric ball, which was held in the palm of Angel's hand and stamped fiercely towards Anthony's vest. Anthony turned around, a sneer finally appearing in his eyes. Thunder flash. He turned around and stamped out with one hand, just in time to meet the black electric ball with the power of three people. Boom. Countless electric currents escaped and exploded, like water bottles that were smashed and exploded. Countless arc current fragments exploded between the two of them, paralyzing all the mercenaries around who couldn't dodge. One person couldn't dodge and was injured by electricity. One arm, the whole hand was burnt black. Circles of ripple-like electric traces spread everywhere on the soil and plants on the ground. The blue electric traces continued to spread, climbing up tree trunks and across the grass. But more of them rushed towards the acromentalis not far away. Roar. With a painful roar, the eight-eyed monitor lizard's 8 spider-like red eyes suddenly turned blue, and it suddenly lay down with its head tightly prostrate in front of Anthony, completely surrendering. Ha 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 ha, Anthony raised his head and laughed wildly. The plan he had been lurking for so many years finally succeeded today. With the acromantula, let's see who can stop me from getting the secret volume. A trace of fanaticism flashed in his eyes as he watched a black stone door slowly open on the ground that the acromentalis had left. The stone door seemed to be an illusory shadow, looming and a little blurry, but Anthony knew that this door could indeed enter. This is where the huge wealth accumulated by the Bingley family for hundreds of years lies. It's not just ice and thunder rolled in it. In the desperate eyes of Goalie and others, Anthony reached out and took off a string of ice blue lightning-shaped metal necklace pendants hanging on his body. Heart of lightning, go and open the door that truly belongs to the secret vault. He gently lifted the lightning heart and shook it forward. Click. A ball of lightning suddenly burst out from the pendant and rushed straight to the underground black door. Boom. The electric ball and the black door collided together, blooming with an extremely dazzling white light. After so many years of lurking, I finally succeeded. Ha 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 ha, brother, did you see it? I finally succeeded. Anthony watched the black door in the white light gradually turn into reality, and the joy in his heart finally couldn't be suppressed. He stopped, raised his head and laughed wildly. At this time, something like a parchment scroll slowly rose up from the black door. There was a trace of blue arc surrounding the scroll, as if it was a high-voltage power generator. Anthony stopped laughing, stepped forward suddenly, and reached out directly to grab the scroll in the white light of the electric current. G. E. Lee and others closed their eyes in despair. When Anthony got the secret volume, they would be silenced. At this time, the moment Anthony's hand was about to touch the secret volume, suddenly, a huge and terrifying force struck from behind him. Get away! A huge, irresistible force field fell from the sky and fell hard on Anthony, knocking him away like a ball. He was smashed into the pine forest for an unknown distance, dripping with blood all the way, and unknown to what extent he was injured. The secret scroll is mine. A black shadow instantly appeared at Anthony's original position, grabbing the secret scroll with his big hand. You want to take it all for yourself? Another black shadow fell from the sky and landed hard on the ground, like heavy metal hitting the ground with cracks. Before he could stand still, the person's right arm suddenly grabbed the palm of the previous person's hand. Boy, you're looking for death, the first man roared, and the terrifying force field suddenly shrank, condensing on his palm, and he hit the second man with his backhand. The terrifying power of the two of them, the aftermath alone was already equivalent to the lethality of Anthony's full force explosion just now. The two huge and terrifying force fields collided, directly blowing up all the surrounding mercenaries. G. E. Lee and others, rolling around and motionless, all of them were severely injured and unable to move. Even the tyrannical acromentalis was beaten all over by the huge aftermath, and lay on the ground without daring to move. Boom! The two hands met face to face, and the huge power burst out together formed substantial energy ripples that slowly spread out. Roar. The first person opened his mouth and burst out with a roar like a lion, which shocked the second person slightly. However, due to his slowness at this moment, the secret scroll was just caught in the first person's hand. Want to leave? At this moment, a third person's voice suddenly appeared in the forest not far away. A black blade shot out from the forest like lightning and hit the boss's arm hard. The secret scroll in his hand was shaken so hard that it fell out of his hand. At the same time, another black shadow shot out from the forest and landed beside the two people in front. The three of them stood opposite each other, like horns. The third person is a little weird. In addition to being shrouded in black shadow, his whole body also has a faint dark red halo, as if he himself is emitting red light all the time. Garen stood quietly, staring at the dense volume filled with arcs of electricity in the center. The blow he just struck was already a full-strength blow to activate the Blood Eagle state. Unexpectedly, it only shook the boss's palm and did not even hurt him. The gap between this is already obvious. In this way, even one knife cannot hurt the opponent, so his strongest double prison lock may only slightly hurt the opponent at most. If a fight really breaks out, the first thing you can do is run away. He deserves to be the chief elder, and he deserves to be a double-month master. After the 5th level, there is the new moon level, the half-moon level, and then the double-moon level, with 2 thresholds in between. Garen himself understood that although he practiced the Hell Demon Sword, it was extremely powerful and could fight across levels, but with his original strength, Dingtian could cope with the half-moon level, and it was still too early to face the double-moon level. The two people in front of them are not even ordinary Xuanjiao. They have accumulated terrifying existences for many years. Once exposed, they will be really dangerous. It's not like no one in the Jixu sect has fallen in their hearts. As long as their hands and feet are clean, there are many ways to block the sect crystal. Thinking of this, his mind reached its peak and he maintained the highest vigilance. According to the original scheduled points, Garen's disguised sharp voice said calmly. "That's mine." Suddenly, a huge surge of electric energy surged behind Garen, at least half a moon level. That was Anthony, who had been hit hard before. He rushed out crazily with blood on his face, his body like an electric hedgehog, and pounced towards the three of them. Court death. Garen didn't wait for the two of them to react, and immediately drew his sword, and struck back with the sword. In an instant, the special transformation skills of Wan Zhengong were mixed into it, and the Hell Demon Sword drew black marks in mid-air, and unexpectedly zigzagged downwards, like a broken line drawn with a pen, and shot quickly in front of Anthony. With a sudden twist, the black wire went in and wrapped around his back, piercing hard through the weakest current point. Chi! Anthony's eyes widened and he stood there blankly. With a crash, his whole body was cut in half. Garen slowly sheathed his sword, his aura calm, as if he had just struck out with the sword at random. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1014. This is a realm worthy of it, the boss chuckled, with a hint of fear in his tone. Carthage's explosive power was already terrifying, but now he has the ability to change his moves instantly. Once a fight starts, it's okay. The boss is thinking that he can't compete with this guy unless he and the second brother join forces. But the second child's thoughts? Let's divide it equally among the three parties. I'm just a little interested in taking a look at this thing, Garen said lightly. The second child's eyes were shining brightly at this time, and he seemed a little confused as he stared at Garen. However, although the sword just now was amazing, it required at least the water mirror level to be used, but for some reason, he just felt the same as the one from Carthage before. The temperament feels a little different. I have no objection, the boss shrugged. Then I agree, the second child couldn't figure it out, so he put it down for the time being and nodded. Let's remember together. Garen reached out to grab the secret volume and gently opened the first page. The arc filled his hands, but it could not harm his skin at all. This was the natural protection of the force field. The dense flow of information suddenly flew out, forming a circular blue current three-dimensional pillar in front of the three people, slowly rotating. In an instant, the pillar emits blue light, and every character flashing on it contains a large amount of information flow. The three of them quickly began to remember. At this moment, the second child's eyes fell on Garen again. At the moment when the blue light flashed, he once again felt something was wrong. He had seen Carthage once, and he was extremely arrogant. Moreover, he has a stronger mysophobia than the boss and does not want any energy from the outside to come into contact with his body. And just now this man actually let the electric current fall on the back of his hand. This person, the second man's eyes flashed faintly. In an instant, the first page was completely memorized. Garen also noticed that his second son was paying attention to him, and his heart trembled slightly, feeling that something was wrong. Page 2. He reached out and opened the second page of the book. No. You're not Carthage, the second brother suddenly shouted sharply when he saw his hand being touched by electricity again. Clang. The black line of the sword suddenly appeared and struck at the boss and the second child at the same time. Garen suddenly grabbed the secret scroll and turned around and ran away. The red light all over his body was no longer concealed, and he rushed into the pine forest at an astonishing speed. Countless black sword lights burst out from all over Lao Er's body, and the sword lights scattered overwhelmingly. He also chased out at the same speed. Hand over the secret scroll, the boss then reacted, scattered the sword light with one hand, and rushed out immediately. His legs deformed and twisted into two black wings. He flapped hard, and the black shadow flickered and shot out. He hurriedly chased the two people in front of him. The rest of the people were seriously injured and fell to the ground unable to move. The moment Anthony was about to finish, three extremely powerful and terrifying black hands rushed out and directly killed Anthony. The situation took a turn for the worse. Everyone in Jali didn't know how to react at all, so they could only pretend to be unconscious, for fear that the three of them would be distracted by them. Anthony, the strong man they had been planning to kill for so long, actually acted like a fool in front of the three of them. It's like paper, and it kills instantly. The difference between them is unimaginable. Especially the white ghost and his group, lying on the ground pretending to be dead, motionless, and not daring to get up. Especially when they heard the name Carthage, this group of people were even more frightened. Who didn't know that Carthage was unparalleled in domineering, and there were many cases of killing people to pay for their disagreements. At this time, it was not until they heard the three people leaving that the group of people on the ground sat up. Retreat, the team leader among the white ghosts roared, and the group of people jumped up quickly and retreated quickly. The mercenary team and others glanced at Jali and others not far away and let out a breath. I almost lost my life this time. Miss Jali, the favor you helped us will be repaid this time. The rest of the team also turned pale, and no one could calm down before they came down from the Hell Gate. Everyone's heart was beating wildly. The mercenary team also left, leaving some medicine for Ge Li and the others before leaving. On the field, only the severely injured Acromantula was left groaning and lying not far away. Ge Li sat on the ground blankly, looking at the messy family secret vault. The rest of the treasures inside were completely destroyed due to the aftermath of the three people just now. The door was destroyed and the treasures could not be opened, which meant they could never be taken. Got it? Sister in the mud, his brother Beirut crawled over. His legs were interrupted by the aftermath of the incident. Blood slowly flowed out from the joints of his legs. Some of them had dried up and he didn't know how much blood had been shed. Ge Li hugged her brother gently. She couldn't hold back her tears anymore and flowed out all at once. Where's my brother? Beirut asked weakly. Jali looked up in the direction of Angel. Angel there was completely out of breath. The aftermath of the sword light that had just dispersed Galen happened to pass through his neck, and his head was in another place. His eyes were staring at the sky. Angel, it seemed that before he had time to react, he died completely. An unspeakable sadness surged into my heart. The entire family had died with only this little left. We must leave immediately. Ge Li suddenly woke up. The three strong men just now are likely to come again, and we must leave immediately. She stood up and wanted to release her energy weapon, but found that her horse-shaped energy weapon had been broken at some point, and there was a clear gap on it. She climbed up from the mud, soaked all over, with scars all over her hands and legs. Picking up her brother's body, Julie tied her brother to her back and walked with difficulty in the other direction of the pine forest. A confused emotion filled their hearts. Anthony died, but he did not die in their hands, but was killed casually by three stronger shadows, as if he was just a little ant that was stepped on casually. Such a height, such a level. Angel is also dead, in the aftermath of the accident. Is the family's great revenge avenged or not? They didn't know what was going on, they were just confused. What's the way forward? The two of them didn't know what to do at all. Leave the secret volume. In the dense forest, a column of terrifying white light burst out suddenly, rushing out of the pine forest and punching a circular hole in the leaves and branches above the dense pine forest. The resulting light projected down and fell on the three people running wildly in the forest. Garen made a leap, stepped on the tree trunk with force, turned around and rushed towards a small stream on the side. Snapped. His legs landed on a large bluestone in the middle of the stream, and a red light like wings suddenly spread out from behind. Blood Eagle. He roared like an eagle, rising into the sky. Want to run? The boss jumped up behind him, and the terrifying red snow skill whipped up a large amount of wind and snow, rushing straight into Garen's back. Meditation seal. At the same time, a cold icy blue seal shot out of the pine forest and aimed at the side of Garen's arm. The white snow and blue seal rushed towards Garen almost at the same time, intercepting him in mid-air. Garen suddenly exerted his strength, and the red wings behind his back flapped and accelerated, and his speed suddenly increased by a large margin. Kankan avoided the two attacks and rushed into the sky above the pine forest. Good speed, the boss sneered, but do you think you can escape at this speed? His right arm suddenly mutated, quickly lengthened, and turned black, turning into a claw like a wild beast. He quickly raised it and aimed at Garen in the sky and waved it fiercely. Big Blizzard Palm. A clear white palm print flew out from the paw, as fast as lightning, and caught up with Garen in an instant. Garen didn't have time to turn around, he felt the hair on his back suddenly stand on end, and he didn't have time to think too much, he used his backhand with all his strength. The two swords are drawn out and merged. Double prison lock. The Hell Demon sword technique exploded with all its strength, and a black knife mark drew a black line from top to bottom, directly hitting the palm print behind. Bang! The white palm print was blocked by the knife mark, but the terrifying and powerful Chi Shui's power broke through the blockage, causing the palm print to continue rushing towards Garen. The power of the double prison locks only made the palm print slightly weaker. Die! The boss clenched his paws. Remotely control the direction of the palm print, and at the same time grasp Xiang Jialeng's head. Boom! A large number of snowflakes flew from the sky. Garen let out a muffled groan and flew backwards like an arrow from a string. A little bit of blood was sprinkled in the air. Sharp! With the powerful momentum of the big blizzard palm, Garen's body suddenly flapped its wings again and shot away further away. He was about to escape the attack range of the two men. Second brother, the boss yelled back as he couldn't catch up. Spirit screen seal. As soon as the voice fell, a large ice blue net suddenly appeared in front of Garen, completely blocking it. The big web was like a spider's web, completely clinging to Galen, as if it were catching red flying insects. The entire net was pulled out into a sharp bulge by Galleon's momentum, but it was quickly pulled back again. Garen did not expect that such a method would be used to stop him. He wanted to break free from the big net, but he couldn't use any force. The red snow skill in his body was suppressed by the big net, and bits of biting cold air continued to spread and penetrate into his body. Looking back, the two people were actually less than 100 meters apart. Cold energy radiation, the cold energy all over his body suddenly surged, and it was superimposed into the red snow skill. Garen's entire skill suddenly increased by one level, reaching the 11th level of red snow skill. He was able to struggle to break away from the stickiness of the net. But it's still not enough. Garen raised his hands and turned them into swords, slashing towards the net. Powerful strength is transformed into soft strength in the realm of martial arts. The transformation of hardness and softness is an ordinary skill and ability of martial arts masters. Collapse. A cobweb was finally broken. But there were dozens or hundreds of spider webs clinging to Garleon, and there was no way to break them off at once. Still want to run, the boss jumped up, big blizzard palm. Another snow-white palm mark struck Garen behind. The completely irresistible terrifying power almost overwhelmed Garen before he even got close. The boss had already used all his strength in this palm. White palm prints flew behind Garen, and everything happened in an instant. Woo! Suddenly a wolf howled, and a blue shadow rose into the sky. The huge momentum was superimposed with Garen's full burst of red snow power, and it squeezed hard towards the other side of the blue net. Puff! Finally, the entire blue network was directly breached. The second brother who arrived late was slower. When he saw this scene, his eyes narrowed. Damn it! Galen broke through the blue net and shot towards the other side. But he still couldn't completely avoid the terrifying speed palm prints of Big Blizzard Palm, and was imprinted on his back by a palm. Bang! Countless snowflakes flew away. Garen spread his wings and once again used his strength to rush out a large distance and disappeared in the distance in an instant.